All right, good morning, everyone. As all the attendees join us this morning for this webinar, I just wanted to give a couple announcements. So my name is Zachary Salopek. I work with CSurgeries. I'm going to kind of be moderating in the background for this webinar. We are joined by 3 professionals in the medical research field, and I'm going to let them kind of introduce themselves. And then we're going to hear a little bit more about both of these medical journals that they work for. While they're discussing and while they're talking, if you have any questions, please utilize the Q&A feature or the chat feature, and we'll kind of get those questions teed up to them. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gresham to start with introductions.
Okay, thanks, Al, and welcome to our esteemed presenters today who are going to discuss with us the ins and outs, essentially, of medical publishing for those who are interested in doing so, as this is such an important part of our lives and careers in medicine. My name is Gresham Richter. I was one of the co-founders for CSurgeries Journal, which is a robust journal that filled with a bunch of peer-reviewed surgical videos, actually many of which are produced by medical students, residents, and experts within the field. And it has grown over the years with partnerships with our colleagues who you see today, and has been a very, I guess, impactful journal for those who are trying to learn and train and to be able to publish quickly. I'm also the editor of another journal called the Journal of Vascular Anomalies, and which started 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. So we'll be able to give you a little bit of background on how to get your work published from those who are really looking at what you're sending to us. So I think this will be helpful. So with that, I should also mention that I am a surgeon, a head and neck surgeon at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences and Arkansas Children's Hospital as a pediatric otolaryngologist. So, and now I lead you to whoever wants to speak next.
And you should go. You should go next.
Francisco.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for making this happening. Thank you, everybody, for signing in into the webinar. My name is Francisco Bonilla Escobar. I'm a physician from Colombia. I'm a master in epidemiology. I'm also finishing my PhD in clinical research and translational science at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Medical Students. Thanks to Juliana, I'm part of the journal, and she will introduce herself, telling you guys that she was a founder of the journal. And I was seeing growing the journal, being kind of a student editor, first as a supporter, then as a student editor. And then from there, I grew up until I became the editor-in-chief, which I have been like in the last couple of years, probably 8 years so far.
A few more.
We are in our 10th year of continuous publications so far, and we are very proud of the progress that the journal has made. We have reached an online presence of more than 100,000 views of the journal every year, more than 20,000 followers in all across our social media. And very recently, we started with the World Conference of Medical Students Research, a new space for students to present their research. And so, and in a platform that is global, like the International Journal of Medical Students. So thank you again, Dr. Richard, and CSurgeries for making this happening. Juliana, Zach, it's a pleasure to be with you today. And I hope we have a great conversation.
Thank you, Fran. And I can introduce myself as well. My name is Juliana Bonilla Vélez. I'm originally from Cali, Colombia, in South America. I went to medical school with Francisco at the Universidad del Valle. And this all started as a very exciting dream because we felt that there were some journals for medical students, but there were fairly few and small, and there wasn't really an international platform where medical students could really share their research. And that was really the purpose with which we started. And it was with my other two co-founders, Americo and Christian, who we kind of set up on this journey to try to establish an international journal for medical students that would really bring the voice of students from all across the world to the scientific, community. And so it was really, really exciting. It had not been done, and it took a lot of work, but we were able to get the first volume in under our belts. And I think somewhere in between that first and second volume, after having set everything up, is when we transitioned the editor-in-chief position to Francisco. So he's really done an amazing job and really taken it to the next level and got us indexed in a lot of places, and really took the journal to, the being where it is today, which is really, really impressive and exciting. And so just to kind of emphasize that this was all done by medical students for medical students. And I really want medical students to feel that this is their journal. And so we're here to help them. And that really includes kind of like a next phase or an additional layer of the editorial process, where we really work directly with the authors to help them improve their manuscript and to really help them kind of be at kind of publication level, as we're all kind of starting to learn how to do research and how to share our insights and what we've discovered. And so
tell me, really, why you bring that up, I think that's one of the questions that our students are going to have. Tell us how your journal does that for the student. How are they? You're essentially, what you're saying is you're helping them mold their ability to create articles that are publishable, correct?
Correct. And we do that at many different layers. And I'm sure Francisco can probably add when I'm when I finish giving an initial perspective, but we do this at kind of every role. And so within the journal itself, we have students who are medical student editors, and they review that initial manuscript when it comes in, and we have kind of internal guidelines about, what information should have the introduction, the methods, how they should be written, how to present your results. And so we've built all this internal structure about kind of things for us to look for in papers and give that constructive feedback to authors, really with a view of like trying to help the manuscript reach as good as it can be before it goes out to peer review. And so that's kind of like an initial kind of polishing layer.
Sal, while she's discussing this, are you able to pull up their website and share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Keep going. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. And so really, this also helps us train our editors to be, better at their jobs every day, and to really learn from the inside how to have the most competitive journal article. And it's also helping our authors get there as well. And they can do an initial review of English and grammar and that sort of thing. Then once we have the article kind of as good as we can get it, then it's sent out to peer review, and obviously it gets more polished and more helped. And when we reach out our reviewers, we really emphasize that this is a journal for medical students, and that part of our mission is really to train everybody involved in, being better. And so we've had some amazing reviewers who have helped us do that as well. And then we kind of give back the feedback to the authors and hope that they can, improve on the manuscript. Fran, I'm not sure if there's more things that you would like to add to that process.
Oh, yes, indeed. Thank you again, Dr. Richard, for bringing this up. As Juliana just said, we have this team of student editors. If Zach, you would like to go to About the Journal in the editorial team, you will see that we have a team, a global cadre of people coming all together, medical students, recently graduated physicians, and that are part of this student editors team. and they are the first, the gatekeepers. I call them that way, the gatekeepers of the medical students research or the early career researchers publications.
And they're from all over the world, it looks like.
Yes, they are from all over the world. We open our call for editors every year at December, so we are close to this call of new student editors, and so we also have professionalized our training for them. And so before, like probably 1 or 2 years ago, there was something called Publon's Academy that was changed into Web of Science Academy, and so all of our student editors are certified reviewers by the Web of Science Academy, which is this online course that includes like good practices on citing, how to peer reviewing with a mentor. And so they need to peer review 2 articles with a mentor in order for them to graduate from this academy. So all these people, they make us so proud because they are just a team of enthusiastic medical students that comes every year. And of course we select them. And so from here, you're seeing people that is jumping into the top tier universities of the world after their tenure in the journal.
So let's say I'm a medical student and I'm in my first or second year, and I'm trying to figure out. I know I need a publication either to move to another part of the country or another part of the world into a residency, because that's what's required right nowadays to really get into a competitive residency. You have to have some publication. So I'm a first or second year medical student. I'm just getting started. I know this is on my plate. And I come to you guys and I say, okay, what do I do next? How do I go about doing that? How do I find the right person to work with? What do I need to put, what's an article that I'm going to publish? Is this a place where they can go and kind of get that kind of information?
I will say that some people do different strategies when trying to submit their articles. I will say that we are very accessible. And so they contact us through every different social media or emails. And so like it is a little bit funny, but we get questions about what type of submissions we receive through Instagram, like DMs in Instagram asking like what articles you receive, or how do I submit my article, or do you have fees, for example. So we have, of course, we have, as every other journal, a section about submissions, which is how to submit articles. And in the top by ArchiveSac, and so this includes all the instructions for authors as every other journal, but people can reach to us in case that they have any questions about the type of publications that we publish, because we have a special sections dedicated to medical students, and these are experiences and interviews. And so, for example, we want to highlight those medical students' bright experiences in the world, and it doesn't matter from where this experience comes from, but it could be something that people can learn from and repeat this experience later. So, for example, like we have a bright experience talking about how this student went from the physics Olympics into medical school, or serving as a volunteer during the COVID pandemic, things like that. When the pandemic started, we were just flooded by experiences of medical students working in the pandemic, volunteering. We were one of the few places for medical students to really highlight and show globally what were they doing during the pandemic, so other students could see this experience and go out and do those things. And also we have this forthcoming section in the journal, which is like an area where we publish immediately after acceptance the articles. And so people has fast access to publications. So if somebody is publishing something very, very innovative or a really nice experience, we want it to be out there immediately so people can access that experience.
Yeah, that's great.
And I
so
will
really,
also just add very quickly that, within our reviews and within our experiences, there's a lot of really useful material for medical students as they're getting started. And so there's articles about the importance of research in medical education and how it's really such an integral part of our training, and, discusses like, why a mentor is important and how to start doing all these things. And so I think it's not just a journal as a as an institution and kind of the direct support that we offer, but it's also all the learned information, all the lessons are really kind of there for everybody to be able to read and build on, and kind of start their processes, which are going to look very different for each of you wherever you are around the world. And so I think I understand that maybe a little bit from like a more personal perspective, having had my medical school
Let's dive
in
into that.
Colombia. Yeah, having had like my medical
know
school
how
in
you've done it.
Colombia.
I know your background. I know how successful you've been since an undergraduate and during medical school, and then during. So how did you walk yourself? Like if someone's starting now, they're in medical school and they're trying to get to the next level. How did you do it? Because you did it so well. You published so many times. You worked with amazing, great people, and you continue to have them as part of your life and mentorship. So tell us how you worked that out.
Well, thank you, Gresham, and you're very kind. I do want to say, actually, I'm sure Francisco will be more than happy to share his story, because it's been parallel and also like very, very rich. And so I think we probably have a little bit of different lessons learned that we can share. But yeah, I mean, I grew up and I went to medical school in Colombia in South America, and I think we, very early on in medical school, we actually got engaged in working in a society to promote medical research within medical students. It is called ASEMBAL, and it's still active, actually. And I think that was really the spark that got us kind of involved in how important it is to have a culture of research. And I think this message may be like very obvious here in the US, where all medical students just know that they have to start kind of thinking about this and getting their hands on something. But, in Colombia, most physicians don't do research, and many physicians, even at universities, don't necessarily have to be publishing at much or at the rate that we see here in the US. And so it's really not incredibly common that everybody's doing research, as it is, I think, more so here. And I'm sure many other students in other parts of the world may be having a similar experience where, like for us, I think how we felt at that moment was like, oh my gosh, this is really important. I want to start doing research. I don't know how to do it. I can't even know who my mentors should be. And so we really started off very at the grassroots level, trying to come up with pairing the right people to the right mentors, and kind of giving them those initial tools to kind of get started on research. And I think that really started the drive for everything that we did during medical school, participating in our, local society, in our national society, ASEMCOL, international societies such as FELSOSEM or IFMSA. And, it was really the motivation to start this journal, because we just felt like we didn't have a good platform to share our voices and share our work. And so it really was born from that desire to be more involved in research, and that desire to help students, navigate that if they didn't have the opportunity to do so very easily.
So that's one part of it. That's the desire. So you have a clinical question. How do you get it to the next level?
So actually, Fran, do you want to add anything to that, and maybe answer that question?
So I think like Juliana mentioned something very important, and is the medical students associations. Like these groups of students that are interest groups, you can see them all over the world. In every university, there is an interest group of ophthalmology, neurology, anything.
Start there.
We have these particular societies. Yes, we have these particular societies that are guided by the Latin American Federation of Medical Students. Scientific societies. And so we started there. And so, yes, interest groups is where probably most of the students should begin. And it depends also, of course, in the context. Like why I think this is a very important opportunity for all of us to be discussing today is because we came from very different contexts, and we also have experiences, both sides of the coin. And so like finding a mentor that has actual publications is what it really matters the most for you to get through the process. Like,
so that's the second step. Look them up on PubMed. Make sure that they know how to publish.
yes,
You know?
yes. And also that's also something that is like a double-edged sword too. Like as we are talking about low and middle income countries, probably not PubMed. You know, probably Google Scholar will be the first source to see if your mentor has publications, because they probably are not trained yet into that. If your publication is not in PubMed, you probably are not that well cited. So finding somebody that has published something is vital. And so when I was doing my first research, I'm talking back in 2006, I can't believe how much time has gone through. And I'm still look as young as back in 2006. It was like a lot of experience, 2 years working in a chart review to get a paper published in 2008. But it was the first time. Guessing what language was published. It was published in Spanish.
Sure.
And so, but people can criticize that it's not in PubMed, that is not in English, that is not a global article. But guess what? That has taken me step by steps, little steps, onto the position that I am right now. And so people shouldn't be discouraged by that they don't have the mentors, the strong mentors, you know, like they don't have Juliana to mentor them. They don't have Richard to mentor them. No, they can have somebody with few publications in their own language, in their local journal. That will be a stepping stone into the next following steps towards higher indexation, and probably a residency somewhere else. Like, because when residency applicants are evaluated, they are not only evaluated by their PubMed publication, but they're also evaluated within their context. Like, if you are in a low-income country, but you have done the job, you have looked for mentors, you have contacted people elsewhere, you probably will be seen differently, like as somebody that is strong enough to surpass all those barriers that your context is putting in front of you.
So what I'm hearing you both say, first is get around people like yourself that want to do research, enter into societies or whatever, groups of students or some formal organization that is involved in research or involved in kind of encouraging people to do research. Then the second step is finding a mentor. It doesn't have to be the super mentor, but it could be someone who is also interested in research, but really doesn't maybe have the means or may not have done a lot of research, but is willing to support you in the process. And then the last part is this drive, like, I want to get published, right? If you don't have that drive, then you're probably not going to take that next step. And I mean, I remember when I was a resident, then I only had a few publications. I literally ran an animal study all by myself in a back closet of some laboratory, okay, in order to make sure that I could get the work done to make it happen without anybody else assisting me. Because you have to have that internal passion to say, I'm interested in this idea. And that's the key, knowing what the right idea is. Like if you ask yourself that question, oh man, I think this could be done better. You're watching something as a student or even a resident, and you're watching something like, man, something's not right here. There's got to be a more efficient way to do it, or it's got to be a better way to do this, or something to that effect. Once you have that question, then you can answer something that's passionate to you, right? Something that is valuable to you, whether or not you publish it, right? Because you're helping yourself answer a clinical question that could potentially impact you. But that early research experience, what you're saying to me, Francisco, is that just by going through that process early on has led you to where you are today. Whether it gave you the master publication in Nature, okay, it doesn't matter where it was, right? Versus a smaller journal, it doesn't matter. It's the process that's allowed you to continue to move forward, right? Little by little, ultimately, but it was the passion that got you there. And you've had some mentors along the way that kind of guided you in one way or another. I'll tell you, for Huli, when I was mentoring her, she mentored me. I mean, she was doing some statistics on her own that I was like, there's no way I could do that, right? But that's the other part of it. You have to bring groups of people in around you that will be able to help you complete it. So to publish an article, you need a statistician, right? Of some sort, someone who knows that part or that looks legitimate in publication. You need to have some sort of, if it's international, some sort of English revision to make sure that the English is successful, unless it's in Spanish, of course, unless it's in your own native language. And then you need to have a mentor that's willing to take the time and read it, right? That's the key. They need to have a little bit of time to read and go through the work that you've done. But the format is always the same, right? The format is, you've got your abstract, you've got your introduction, you've got your methods, your results. In my opinion, what you need to have done first, you've done a little bit of research, write the methods. That's your first step. Write the results. That's your next step. And then you can work everything out. Some people do it the other way. They start out with writing the introduction. Here's my idea. Here's the background. Here's the idea. I'm going to write a sentence, and then the research follows that. I'm going to write a sentence of what my hypothesis is, and then the research follows that. So it begins with the spark. That spark is codified or supported by a mentor, and then it leads to a continued interest in research. Is that true?
Yes, and actually you mentioned something very important here, and is that the steps of doing research and growing as a researcher, we have this thing in Latin America called formative or training research. And so it's like people is learning how to do research and how to publish or how to be a scientist, of course, doing research. And so how is that? Again, as you just said, like start at the basis, like do a letter to the editor, for example, interact with the journal, get this first experience out. Look for your mentor, write an article in your own native language. Things like that are this innovative way of seeing things. Of course, these are not going to be the +1 articles, no? But that will take you there. So yes, I think that was a great concept to be bring up into the conversation. So how people can grow from that.
Let me mention also something about online access journals now. I mean, that is 80% of journals are now online access, right? But 80% of journals, that means they charge a fee, right? But it doesn't mean that they're a low-level journal, okay? And there are different ways. Some are more expedited. So as a student, as a resident, oftentimes you're trying to get your research published quickly. You don't want to be stuck in the fold of 6 to 8 months to 12 months of a publication process. You want to be in the fold of maybe it's going to be a month or so with them. So you look for the journals, and this is just, I'm trying to provide some advice to those that are in the space trying to get published, that you look for the journals that can expedite the reviews. You look at how quickly it is on the journal date which it was submitted versus the date at which the articles which they were submitted versus the date at which they were published, right? And then that's one part of in the process. You submit your article, you're going through the process, you get some feedback. You know, what do you think as a journal editor, okay, that is going to prevent somebody or help somebody get that article published and expedited quickly? What do they have to have in place?
This is a great question. I have trouble responses to this because publishing is a responsibility that as editors we have, and so we're gatekeepers of the science that is out there. Of course, we are kind of messengers between peer reviewers and authors, etc. And so in our journal, the editorial process takes at least 3 to 4 months. And people should be aware that having a fast track publication is probably not the greatest practice in science or medicine. We just saw during the pandemic how many articles were just, what is the word for this? They were retracted and after they were published because they were coming with fake data, elaborated data, and we saw that all the time. There is a website that is like a retractor scientists, retractor science, and they keep track of these kind of practices. And so that's very important to keep in mind. Like if you're in a rush to publish something, you should be very careful, because your article could end up in a predatory journal, and so that's not seen as good research or good science.
Right.
And also you're going to be charged tons of money. Journals are charging right now above $1,500 per publication.
That's
Some
crazy.
journals, of course.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
At CSurgeries, it's free. You could publish a video for free on CSurgeries.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, because journals are sustainable machineries, but the system has changed them into profitable enterprises. And so
how do you know a journal is a predatory journal?
So
do you have insight into that?
There are strategies to that. There are like publications that describe like items to check in a journal whenever you are having doubts if it's predatory or not. And so there is also, don't obey to emails that you receive. Like that's kind of the first place to start. Like whenever you first publish something online, a letter to the editor, whatever, you're gonna start getting emails from the Cosmic Medical Journal or International Journal of Medical Super Science, things that are random, that come from everywhere in the world, including the US.
Yes.
But journals we are not looking for submissions. We are not looking for, hey, we are missing one paper to get our issue ready to be published. Why don't you send us this little silly article that you have somewhere there? And we won't charge you. But then these journals, as time passes, they become something that is continuous, and so they start to charge. And so all these bad research, I'm sorry for the term, got some visibility in the world, because it was just like a predatory journals, predatory authors. So looking PubMed, how to identify a predatory journal, there you will find like guidelines, items, checklist to see in the journal that you're applying if this checklist applies to that journal, and then you make your own decision, because no journal is going to say we are a predatory journal. Nobody's going to say that.
Julio, I want to hear what you have to say about it too, but I want to say one thing about what you just mentioned. To know how to publish, it's important for you to read good articles that are published on PubMed, that's in the space at which so before you publish something, a student or resident, you need to go and read articles. You need to read articles in what you're about to publish, that you want to publish on, but you also need to understand the format and the style that gets published, right? And the only way you really get used to that is by looking at articles going, oh, I see how they did that. I see how they created that introduction. I see how that, and you follow that kind of pathway. The more you do that, you know, there's a question that was brought up, and I think Julio, you can answer this one in the chat room. Deepa asks, okay, you submitted it. It took 6 months. Now you're rejected. How do you keep motivated? I mean, have you had that happen to you? I mean, how do you keep moving forward?
Oh my gosh, yes, of course, that happens to all of us. And that happens to all of us at every stage of our careers when we're getting started. And it happens also to, you know, Dr. Richter, when he submits articles, sometimes they don't all just go straight into acceptance. And honestly, it's a great process. And I know it's kind of but it's great because you get all this feedback from people who sat down to review your article, to read it in such detail and with such concentration, and to actually tell you, hey, this is what I think, like, did it make sense to me? Or these are areas that are a little bit weak. Can you go back and look at this? And it really tells you how to make it stronger and how to make your article better, so that then you can, you know, improve your article, get it into a better shape. You know, sometimes it includes even doing a little bit of extra analysis, or another experiment. But then by the end of that process, you have a much better article that then you can, try to submit and publish somewhere else. And often it's it really enriches the science and it makes it a much more valuable publication. So I know it's
see it
kind of
as a
hard.
positive thing. I see it as,
Yeah.
hey, listen, this person is trying to make my article look and be better so that someone else will want to read it. I don't see it as like, hey, you're terrible and you did a terrible job. It's more of, hey, listen, I'm trying to help you. As an editor, I know that's what I'm doing. And as a reviewer, I know that it's what I'm doing. I'm like, I don't want you to embarrass yourself by publishing something like this, or I don't want the journal to look like they're not top quality, like Francisco was saying. I don't want our journal to look like it doesn't have published the best quality material, because the reputation is important. Your reputation as an author and the reputation of the journal is both at stake. And the reviewers are helping you, save your reputation, protect your reputation. And I think it's fabulous. So I don't get demotivated too much, but I do take the advice, change the article, and then resubmit. Submit it to someplace else or so.
Also, you can have some chances to find really nice editors, like probably the people that is sitting in this table, where they can also do the extra step to help you with an actual proofread, a statistical analysis. So for example, in our journal, when the article is very interesting, we have a recent experience with I think it was a sleep deprivation study, and it was in a small region from a far away place in the world. And so it was like a really nice idea, a strong work, but they didn't have the statistics. And so we did the statistics for them. We worked with the author, we took their hand, and we worked with them to get their article to a top level that can be publishable in our journal. And so this is a process that I have experienced myself with other editors too, in other journals with my own papers. Like English is not my first language. And I know for many of the audience, English is not going to be the first language. And so I'm still learning how to speak in English. Don't ask about how to write. And then writing an article is something that is not easy at all. And if it's not your first language, it's not easy either. And so having friends, editors that are training how to be editors, how to be reviewers, that love their job, can help also for all of us to strengthen science. And so I had this experience with this editor who, she was just great. I submitted my article. It was my poor English back in 2015. And my article was going to be accepted, but has some limitations in the English. She proofread the article for us. And we have this discussion back and forth about how to improve the article English. And the article finally got published in the journal with the quality that the editor wanted. It's a lot of work. Being an editor is
that's
very
one
tricky.
of the things. Even as an English speaker, I have found that writing has improved my ability to speak, even in my own English language, because you learn a lot as you articulate and put it down on paper, and someone reviews it and edit it for you. You realize that in order to be clear, not just in written language, but also in verbal communication with others, it helps you with that piece. It helps you how to present ideas. It helps you to even in normal conversations. It's surprising how healthy writing things can be for your ability to communicate verbally as well, don't you think? So I mean, I know just from, and I'm terrible at English myself, even though I'm an English speaker. But no, you're fantastic, Francisco. One of the questions that somebody just raised was they want to know a little bit more about your journal, probably about CSurgeries as well. How do we get the word out, right? How do you get the word out about your journal? What are you doing to make sure that others are reading
Information.
your stuff? Yeah. How do you maximize your readership?
Let's start.
And how do you maximize it for your article as an author, right?
Yeah. Tell us please about how CSurgeries does this.
So, in today's world, okay, to maintain the international status that we have, we have to be on social media. We know this already. And actually, as a journal, I mean, as a journal editor, the publisher sends me things on how to get the social media ideas out there. I know you guys do a fantastic job at this. CSurgeries does it as well. It's a constant feedback that's being sent out. We have a social media, a person who kind of runs that. Sal is that person who kind of sends the messages out routinely, sends the new article that here's our new article, here's this. We continue to push out that information on a daily, some weekly, oftentimes a daily basis. The recommendation, honestly, in the social media world is you have to do it 3 to 4 times a day at least in order to get the message out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. And is that how you do it?
So we have like this team of social media students, medical students. And so they are the ones that are responsible for each of our social networks. And so when we accept an article, we have this follow-up email after publication where we explain the authors how they can get the words out. And so post it in social media, post it in your repository of the university, upload it on ResearchGate, make sure that it's attached to your professional CV website. Like there are plenty of them, like the Orchid, Publons, etc. And our team, of course, also shares all this information. Like we have this special section for articles that is called discussion points. And so we ask the authors when they submit their paper to add a discussion point that is going to be shared on our social media. So we have the author own voice shared by our own platforms. And we are actually thinking on a new development. We have encountered some issues with this about like how to store this information. We're thinking about making audio or visual abstracts so people can share their results. The author itself can share their results in a YouTube interview or something like that. We are still working on that, but I think that's a next step into reaching out. Of course, our articles are in Google Scholar, so anybody that is looking for a topic in particular will find us there. So that's why we have our H index is right now 16. That means that at least 16 of our published articles has 16 citations. The minimal number of citation is 16, and so that's a big reach for a journal. So you look in the Google Scholar scores, it is a good position because that's an age index that people will love to reach.
And there's things like ResearchGate that you could be a member of. There's other little venues that you could submit, you get your articles out there and get the community aware of it. And Juli, I know you've done a good job of that. I remember when you published first on CSurgeries, you quickly became one of the most viewed videos of the entire group of video. It was like thousands all of a sudden, but I thought you did that through the social networking process. Is that true?
Yeah, that definitely helps a lot. And this particular article, obviously, I had amazing mentorship in coming up with the idea. And it was really cool because it was actually the first surgery that I did of this type as a resident and with my amazing professor, Dr. Richter. And yeah, it was really cool. And then just kind of seeing the video after, and it's like, oh, those are my hands. Like, it was really exciting. And I really do encourage all the residents and medical students, as you're like in the operating room and seeing all these very cool cases, is such a great opportunity for you to really kind of like, get a good recording. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, and then put these videos together that will teach you like the surgical technique and the steps of surgery. Like, you just review it all in your mind as you're putting the video together, but also read about it and put this video paper of this surgical technique together, and then you can help so many people out there be able to learn how to do the surgery as well. So it's a really, really cool strategy.
I will tell you that every one of my residents, as they come through, have to watch that video on thyroid loss.
That explains the 1,000 views.
No, I'm telling you, they have to do it before they operate. They have to see how we do it before they jump in. And it takes 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute video. I mean, it's so quick and easy to do. And anybody can watch it. The families can watch it. You can send it to the families, etc. So do you think that, and this is related to a question, do you think that people should start with case reports or something short and easy to get published, or letters to the editor? It's one of the anonymous attendees is asking, what should you start with? Should it be something simple? I think, and is my first advice is I do 2 things. I get a long project and a short project for somebody. So I'll start them with a case report, something from, and there's always a case report out there. There's always something a surgeon has seen that says, oh my God, or someone in the medical field has seen and says, oh my God, this is new and novel. It happens all the time. And let's try and publish this, but then they don't have somebody to publish it. That's where the student comes into play. And that's a relatively quick and easy publication. The second way to do it, you could submit to CSurgeries. You create a video, get it submitted, it gets reviewed quickly, and then gets published quickly, and you already have that on your CV. Another way of doing it is having then a long thing, something that you're doing for a couple of years, like Francisco said. In the beginning, he said, listen, I did a project that was 2 years long, but the process helps you. It helps you become a better researcher as you get older. So short projects at first, but make sure you have a long project in place. What do y'all think?
I think this is related with the question in the chat about how letters to the editors can pave the way. And so, sure, case reports are like a great source for medical research publication. I think letters to the editor are a good opportunity for us to start developing our critical thinking. But also, when you are going to be an author, you need to be aware of what is out there. What is people publishing? How are they publishing? What are they saying about the topic? And so you can study in deep articles that let you see flaws on articles or other areas that weren't discussed. So you can begin conversations with other authors. This is more related to the science, and it, believe me, is going to create some ability into your own toolkit for doing research. And so writing a letter to the editor seems like a very silly or probably useless for some people, but you're going to write something. So you need to sit in your computer and type. That's something that it's something that you will need your whole life to be a researcher, to be a publisher, to be able to type something that is coherent, that can be discussing, that is using literature to be able to bring the attention of editors and readers into a little detail of an article. It doesn't need to be a little detail. It can be a big detail. What I do with the residents at the Universidad del Valle, I'm a professor also of research in ophthalmology at the Universidad del Valle in Colombia. I teach them how to do research with other 2 wonderful epidemiologists. And what we do with them is that the first year, they need to write their project to be developed during the 3 years of the residency, because they have so many other obligations. Research is not like a priority, as Juliana mentioned. And so the first year is a project and a letter to the editor. They write a letter to the editor. It doesn't matter if it gets published or not. We write a letter to the editor. Our experience so far is that we have talked about ocular cancer, ocular tumor somewhere else, trauma in children, in letters to the editor. So the residents have learned how to write. If the letter doesn't get published, it's okay. That's the process. So they also learn about frustration of being an author. And then in the next year, we collect the data and write a case report. And in the 3rd year, they need to finish their research. So this whole pathway for them to become scientists, to become researchers in ophthalmology. And this is innovative in Colombia, at least in the Universidad del Valle, in the Department of Ophthalmology. Our experience has been wonderful with them. We have tailored the program. And so letters to the editors could be a good way to start this interaction with journals.
There are also journals. So in the States, and maybe this is also in Colombia and in other parts of the world, there are also journals that are like locally based. Like if I wanted to submit an article to the Arkansas Society Medical Journal, you're more likely to get published in that quickly, and you can still use that as part of your CV, as part of your publication group. Julie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you guys have said. And, at some point, it's just about getting started, you just have to just get in there and start doing something. I remember even like the first article that we started working on together with Francisco, we actually didn't have it published. And it was just like, but that's where we started, and that's where we learned how to design a database and how to collect data. And we spent all those like afternoons with all those paper charts trying to figure out all this information. So you really just have to start and know that what your efforts that you're doing now, they are going to take you to the next step, even if you don't, actually end up publishing that, that specific project. You'll always learn something that's going to be helpful to you for the rest of your life, right? These are skills that you're building that really will help you get to the next level and that will be useful for you for the rest of your life. I did want to touch a tiny bit on the writing and the language because it's really, really key. Like, I cannot emphasize, you can have the most perfectly done research with great science, with great mentors, great data. You have got to learn how to communicate that eloquently and simply. And it can be really tricky because I think culturally, depending on where you're from, the styles in communication can vary a lot. And so for example, in Spanish and in Colombia, we put a lot of fluffs and extra decoration in everything we say, and everything's exaggerated, and there's a lot of and then when you're really writing a scientific paper, you have to strip yourself from everything that you've learned your whole life about communication and just really learn how to communicate yourself scientifically. And it's a whole different language. And so I'm sure that people from other parts of the world may have had very similar experiences. And so I really think that kind of going to, learning a little bit about how to write a research paper and how to communicate scientific information is really key. And it's a different type of language. So we all kind of slowly learn that over time. And like Gresham was saying, a lot of times as you read the papers, you're like, oh my God, this author is like really good. And he's so eloquent and he's so simple and he just gets the message through. And so you start picking up on those things the more that you read, and then you just kind of have to train yourself to speak and communicate differently. And there are some really good resources, there are some good books about this, and there are some good resources online as well.
There was a question about that. Did you have any particular resource that you used? I mean, I know there's a lot out there, and it's hard for us to kind of target that to answer Deepak's question. But did you something in particular that you worked on and used?
I have actually. Let me see if I have it here. There was a book. I think it's called "How to Write and Publish a Scientific Paper."
You have it. Are you telling me you have that right there next to you? That is crazy. You have it right there.
And publish scientific paper.
Wait, who wrote it?
And then this one was also recommended to me. This one is from Barbara Gastel and Robert Day. And this one was also recommended to me in my master's program, How to Write a Lot. I have not read this one yet. But these were helpful for me because they're also very succinct and they get you right to the point. But I'm sure that there's some other great resources like online. And I don't know if Francisco or Gresham, if you guys have any additional.
Show us that book again. Show us that book again. Barbara Gastel and Robert Day. Hold on. Pull the author down. Gastel and Robert Day. How to publish. What is it? How to write and publish. Okay, I'm writing this in there. Okay. Okay, that's great. That's really cool. You didn't read
Yeah.
that whole book, did you?
I did actually. This one I did.
Pretty impressive. So we only have a couple minutes left. I do want to do a couple of things. I do want to again go back to Sal, if you don't mind, pull up CSurgeries, the share screen of CSurgeries, and then we'll do a share screen of the International Journal for Medical Students. Okay, so that people can see where you can get started. Okay, this is that wasn't quite it, I don't think. Yeah, and then are there any last? I assume Francisco and Juliana that you both will be available for any questions. If somebody has questions, that people can send you a note or email or something after all of this, and we'll be able to answer questions from the chat if anybody has questions for us, because people will be looking at this. Not everybody's with us today, but almost 150 people want to watch this, and they're probably going to have some questions during the chat, so I'll send them to you afterwards. But here's an example of CSurgeries. You can get there online. You can publish your videos for free. Scroll down a little bit. Now, you can see that each of the articles, they have abstracts associated with them. So you do a little bit of writing, but you also are able to publish. These are about 3-minute videos each in any field of surgery. And the goal behind this is the first step was really to create a surgical educational platform for people who want to watch surgery before they jump into the OR and see what their attendings are doing. It's for medical students and residents, but now experts in the field are watching these videos and commenting on them and publishing on them. And if you have a comment on one of the videos, the comment will go to the surgeon who submitted this so that they can help answer any questions that you have about the surgeries. Let's show the International Journal as well.
Yes, and I just want to comment that this is just an amazing thing, and congratulations again for having these CSurgeries and the idea and the platform.
Oh, thank you.
It's just admirable.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. If interested, again, we're very much a very lean platform like your journal. We do need donations as well. So if interested, people can donate to support us as well. So we're not in it to make money. We're in it to help people. Okay. So
yes, same here, as you just said.
Yeah.
So the IGMS 10 years of history. We have published articles from everywhere in the world so far. We have people reading us from every continent, as you can see in the statistics. The number of submissions just keep growing every year. We got at least one submission a day. That was the statistics for last year. With the conference, we are gonna have the World Conference of Medical Student Research this November 12th. So during this weekend, we are closing the reviews for the abstract submitted, and we are going to present the speakers of the conference. And this is not going to be a medical education session. This is going to be just medical students presenting their research.
That's awesome.
So it's just a space for that to happen. And
that's amazing. That's really cool.
Event. Yes, a yearly event for medical students to gather together that do research. We expect this to grow as collaborations between medical students. And who knows where it's going to take us. We have a lot of dreams about this project and to keep growing medical students research and the science from the basis. That
is so cool. I'm impressed. Yeah. So thank you both for being here today. This is the end of our conference, and I'm just so impressed what you were able to do with the International Journal, and what a great place for medical students to start, and even residents continue to publish on there. I'm sure if they need to, right? They can submit things to you about what it was like being a medical student, things like that. And thank you all to CSurgeries. Thank you, Sal, for hosting this and moderating this session. And for all of our sponsors at CSurgery, this has been great. And don't forget, the way these journals live and survive and to keep it available is through donations, as Francisco mentioned to me beforehand as well. So if you feel free and feel comfortable doing this, please feel free to donate. So thank you all and have a wonderful day, and take care.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you for organizing, and great to see everybody again.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Too.